Hello, everyone. Hi, Daniel. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Yes, hi Alan. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm great. What about you?
Cool. Awesome. I'm doing great, and I'm looking forward to diving deeper into data driven content with you today. So, what does content promotion mean to you?
So, what it means to us is simply connect our content to the audience so it can help them do why. So, we have something in our content that we develop, like an interesting fact or a research that can help them conduct their work. And we simply try to connect them with what we found in our research.
So, create something helpful for a specific audience and then simply send it out to them.
Exactly, yeah. So it's similar to what you have in sales. You're not trying to sell people, you try to help them with your solution.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And so, how do you see the balance between content promotion and content creation? Because there's a lot of people that spend too much time creating content and not enough time promoting it. But on the other hand, you also have other people that spend not enough time creating content, and so they just end up promoting content that's very like poor quality, essentially.
Yeah, so of course it might sound obvious, but the one cannot live without the other. So if you develop, let's say in our case, that we produce a research report and it just sits there on the website, yeah, that might get some views from the organic traffic. If we're not going to push this to journalists or to interested bloggers, yeah, it's not going to be a good return for our clients. So it's a necessity to have both elements present when creating content.
So let's say that you had a limited budget and you're doing content creation and content promotion for yourself. Would you have a specific division between the two? Like I'm gonna spend 50% of my time and budget on the creation and the rest on promotion, or 60, 40?
Yeah, I would definitely put a bit more efforts into content creation simply because it's more difficult to stand out from the crowd. So nowadays everyone can produce an infographic or put together a survey. So I would definitely put a bit more effort into the content creation because most people are savvy when it comes to content outreach. You can always not half-ass it, but you can get the gist pretty quickly on what to do, how to find journalists, and so on.
Especially nowadays, I think with the rise of artificial intelligence, everybody can simply push a button or write a prompt and create like written content, but also visual content, videos, whatever. So I definitely agree with this. There's a scarcity in creativity more than in being able to get the word out. And so you're the founder at Front Page Data. So your specialty is creating data-driven content. Could you tell us a bit more about your process for essentially taking data insights from the client or from wherever you take them and turning them into content marketing that has the ability to spread out into the world?
Yeah, sure. So it's not rocket science. So what we do at the beginning is we have the creative process where we have the client fill out an onboarding questionnaire about what they do. Do they have any interesting data themselves that we could leverage? Have they done this before? What type of results they got from this? So yeah, the first step is getting the view from the client, and then we develop some ideas that we think would resonate with the target audience. So in our case, we primarily focus on B2B firms, so firms that are a bit larger. So we have to provide ideas that are out of the box. So with the type of data they have, and then once we created a set of ideas, we get back to the client for any feedback, and then once we get the green light, we kick off the project, and then we produce the piece of content, do some data analysis depending on the data format. In the case, if it's interactive dashboard, it needs a bit more planning, so we sketch out the dashboard in Figma, develop backend, so possibly like a database that can feed the interactive piece. And then once the production process is done, we get another round of feedback from the client, and then we start with the content promotion.
So you also do the promotion.
Yeah, correct. We do also the promotion. We have been thinking of removing this because we cannot do everything. Because if you want to excel in creating research studies, which are not simple. You always need two or more people for that. But at the end, we always come back to also offer this because it's always a question that comes up when talking to clients. They always say, "Yeah, do you do also outreach?" And yeah, it's also something we do. And yeah, adding to this, typically you can create processes around content outreach, which you can easily hand off to a person, and the person can execute it.
Yeah, so I'd be curious to know, do you sometimes get clients that don't have a lot of data, and so they tell you, could you please find data somewhere else, like from some database for us?
Yes, this has been also the case, of course, and the ideation gets a bit more complicated because if you have some proprietary data, you always have advantage compared to others. So you have some nice piece of information that you can promote to journalists. It's just a question of how you package it, like in a research report or in another format. So when they do not have some internal data, we look for external third-party data. So it could be APIs, but it could be government data that is hidden somewhere that is relevant to the business. Yeah, so we need to do a bit of more research when it comes to the fact that they don't have any interesting data in house.
So you run this productized digital PR content creation agency. What would you say are the challenging aspects of creating a productized service like this?
Yes. So one thing to add, I would say that we are like a productized service. I wish we would be that, but unfortunately, it's not the case. Simply because, just to give you an example, so on some projects we are around like 3 to 4 people. So we have a project manager, we have a data person, and then we have maybe a data visualization expert, and then we have a content outreach person. So you can see that's very difficult to productize a campaign as compared to, let's say, SEO services where you have a defined process of how you do the things. Like I'm going to optimize the title tags, I'm going to publish this piece of content, do my content promotion. So you can see the end state compared to our business, where I would see ourselves more like as a consultancy, because every project looks different and it makes it difficult to productize. I've tried that where I cut out a lot of services and tried just to offer like data visualization, but there was a sort of a market for that. But the main challenge we face is, yeah, to operationalize what we do, because it's very difficult to find one person that can do everything, like an A player that knows how to come up with ideas, knows how to code, knows how to write a nice piece of information, and then also to do like outreach. So I assume like a lot of digital PR services that came up lately or 2 years ago did face the problem of creating a piece of content that is not like an infographic, or it's not a survey, because it's a survey you can just figure it out. There's like data visualization tools that you can just plug in your data and it shows you a nice graph. Yeah, but the main challenge is actually, it's funny, it's not sales, but more how do I package my service and make it so I can step out, which I'm still figuring out, and has been definitely a challenge.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a challenge in most productized service agencies, like we, for example, as well. There's always going to be some aspect that's going to be more manual than other things. There's always clients that have different types of content, that have different goals, different types of conversion or KPIs that we need to measure. And so, yeah, it's part of the game.
Exactly, yeah. And I think it's a sort of like pipe dream to automate like everything. There always needs to be like some high level touch from you or from a project manager.
Oh, yeah, definitely, both in the strategy, but also in, for example, email templates. So, why do you think specializing is essential to creating a top-notch digital PR service? How do you go about being able to deliver specialized knowledge that's relevant to a client, for example?
Yeah, it comes down to like to people, and smart people are expensive. So you need to hire like people that know what they do in coming up with ideas and also executing on those ideas. When I hire someone, I look for experience in that area. So typically it's like data journalists that know how to get around data and also write about data. And when I work with data scientists, they should definitely have programming experience in R, which is like a programming language we use mainly. And yeah, and then from there, it's amazing how much problems you can solve with top notch people on your campaign.
Let's say that I'm a client and I want to start taking this internally. What are the two, three main roles that I would need to hire to create a team that can perform and do this kind of work?
Yes, I would say you would need, as I alluded to, you would need a data journalist. I think would be a good fit because based on my experience, if you just hire like a data analyst, data scientist, they don't have the perspective on content. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would hire a data journalist. You can also hire like a journalist, and they can teach themselves the basics of data. And then I would potentially contract a data analyst or a data scientist. So you would have the data journalist as the main person, and then have them manage the projects. He would need to manage freelancers and contractors in order to pull off like research studies and the sort of data content.
Yeah. So, do you have any secret places where you find these people, or can people find them on Upwork?
Yes, I'm quite active in data communities. So I found most people there, top-notch people there. Upwork, of course, is like an obvious place, but you need to know how to evaluate them because they might have an awesome resume, but if you look at their code, it might not be that good, or the type of analysis they did wasn't that good. So I like to check always like their own personal websites or the GitHub to see their coding skills. So I had once like 2 3 years ago, I was hiring for data journalist, data analyst position. I was like 180 people applying for that, and even like professors and stuff like that. And I compared like the type of output they were able to generate in like in half an hour. And yeah, I always get surprised on the type of people that can deliver. For example, the academic wasn't that great compared like to people that are like in the trenches and doing like data analysis like every day.
And so, we talked about creating data driven content, but I'm assuming that to be able to properly communicate your client's story, to be able to get brand awareness, sell products eventually, how do you incorporate storytelling into your content marketing that's data driven?
Yes, so the beauty of data is that it tells a story itself. So if you already have some interesting insights, let's say from an internal database, what we try to do is, if our goal is to promote it to journalists, we try to not to be too specific with the data and the story, because then it doesn't get a lot of interest from journalists. So we need to connect it to maybe like a social event or something that is also of interest to like a broader audience. And then then we have the research question we try to answer with the type of data, and then we just create a sort of like structure based on the data, and also the narrative develops also itself.
So, both the storytelling, but also the visual medium, I'm assuming is very important to communicate this story. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So most of our, let's say, static data visualizations, let's say like a bar chart or a bit more complex data visualizations, they are typically top notch. So we have a specialized person that does the data visualizations. When it comes to interactives, we like to have a standalone website where we feature the dashboard, because then you probably see those where it's like you scroll down, you have some interactives coming up. This is typically very complicated to pull off. I mean, we try to avoid any adding complexities to a story, because then it prolongs the content creation. So typically we have like research studies that with static data visualizations, or an interactive visualization where a JavaScript developer put his hands on and develop the whole dashboard.
Is there any one visualization style or something like that that you see is working particularly well recently?
I would always try to keep it like simple and stupid. You don't need always to have like interactive data visualization. Sometimes it's, if the story is good and the data is insightful, you can get away with static visualizations and a simple research report. And this is also our default. So we try not to do like interactives if it's really necessary and if we think it adds value.
So essentially, you ask yourself, like, what's the simplest thing that we can do for this story to make it effective, and then you build on top of that.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. So I would say there's something that stands out.
Yeah, I'm guessing it also depends a little bit on the client's niche, the industry, and what you see that's already out there, because you do want to replicate stuff that's existing already.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, there's also one point before we pull off the ideas, we try to see if something similar has been done before and add a bit more value than let's say our competitors post or research report.
So I'm curious while we're talking about this. Like this reminds me a little bit of the skyscraper technique. So do you do something like this where you try to create something better than what's already existing?
So we took inspiration from existing content, yes, but we never, as far as I can, as far as I know, we never actually reached out to this to the same people that link to that piece of content. I haven't actually seen a need for that. Only if we see our campaign does not get a lot of traction, we check other competitors and see what sites have linked to them. But not something that is our top priority.
Yeah, you don't start from that. It's basically a low hanging fruit that you can maybe use.
Exactly, yeah, it's something we could leverage.
And so we talked about data creation, visualization. So, how do you go about finding the target audience that has the potential to eventually buy from the client that's related to the client's niche?
Yes. So recently we moved to MacBrack. So this allows us to speed up the prospecting process. So let's say we do like a piece on YouTube or TikTok, then it's simply a matter of finding journalists in that space that have previously reported on that and then reach out to them with our information and with our data. What we also do is we export the leads from MacRack and import them to a tool called Smartly. There's like others called Instantly. It's mainly, the purpose is mainly sales, but the beauty of sales outreach tools is that you can add to a particular campaign several inboxes. So it ensures that the emails we're sending out got actually delivered. And there's also other optimization you can pull off when doing outreach, like only sending emails without HTML because a lot of emails get blocked, so they land in the junk folder. So yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from the content outreach space when it comes to sales. We can borrow a lot of approaches from salespeople.
And so you mentioned reaching out to journalists. How do you connect though the client's niche, the client space, to relevant publications?
Yeah, as I said before, we would like to have the content pieces not too specific because most of our clients are very industry specific and work in boring niches. So we need to make it, our thinking process, we need to make it appealing to journalists. And then, yeah, it's pretty simple. We look for journalists that have previously written about the topic and also try to personalize that as much as possible. So with more or less straightforward with AI tools where you can extract what they've written about and then tell AI to create like a short first line to create a connection and then make you've done this, but we have something to add that might be useful to your readers. Is that something you would be willing to work with us? Yeah, it's not, we don't apply any complex techniques. It's simply they've written about this in the past, so they might also like what we have to say.
And tools like MacRack, I know they're quite expensive. So is there any simpler way or other tools that are cheaper that you could recommend for people that are just starting out that can use?
Yeah. Yes, you could hack it. I think pretty soon will be more or less easy to do so because I'm not sure if you've seen, but ChatGPT, they released plugins. So you can basically you can tell the AI, can you scrape me 10 articles that are relevant to whatever topic? And please extract also the journalist's name. And then you have maybe a list of whatever, 100, 200 leads. And then it's just a matter of using another plugin to find the emails of those journalists.
I've seen a couple of ChatGPT plugins, but I haven't saw any of those scraping tools. Do you have a specific name?
Yeah, so I do not have access to the plugins, so I'm not a beta user, but I'm pretty sure it's coming soon. But there's also automation tools where you can scrape Google search and then also tell the software to extract like content. And there you could, once you extract the content, then you can tell to extract the names. Maybe you can extract journalist names, but this is a bit more hacky, and the setup process probably takes a bit of time. But I think we're not far away from to make this much more easier.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear for people that maybe don't have the budget to invest in those tools or like journalist databases, which are typically thousands per year,
That's
if
true,
I'm
yeah.
not wrong. Do you have a specific example of a campaign that did very well for a particular client that you can share?
Yeah, sure. I think one campaign that performed well was for InVideo.io. So it's a video a creation platform where you can simply create videos for YouTube. And what we did was to analyze whether large companies are doing any marketing on TikTok. So it's a sort of B2B marketing report for TikTok. And this was quite successful. And yeah, got a lot of links for our client. And the outreach process was once you have some interesting data, it's the content promotion is the easy part
It
where
takes care of itself.
yeah, exactly, it takes care of itself. Whereas you have maybe other campaigns that you think you have an interesting report, but then it's the initial like 100, 200 emails. The response rate was really bad, so you need to like maybe change the angle or reach out like in maybe 2 months time. But yeah, you can check it out. Just type in B2B marketing TikTok report and it should show up.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes as well. But what would you say are the typical quantity of emails that you send out and the typical results? Typical returns could be links, mentions, whatever.
Yeah, it's difficult to give an answer to that because obviously it depends on the niche. So if you write, for instance, about TikTok, there's much more people that have written about this in the past. The pool of journalists is much larger. But if you write about B2B software, so it narrows down to tech journalists maybe. But yeah, we try to find as much leads as possible. And we also try to segment between bloggers and journalists because the incentives are different, of course. Bloggers, when you reach out to bloggers, most of your messages will be paid placements. So we try to sort of frame the message as it would be also beneficial to them. So we ask them for a collaboration, maybe for a future project. So build a relationship instead of just here, you've got $200, just place it on our site. Whereas for journalists, they have a sort of different incentive set.
Yeah, and the other thing that you mentioned that I like is that sales outreach and content outreach are very similar. So, what's your view on this?
Yes, generally, I think sales outreach is a bit ahead of content outreach. I think a lot of people that do promote their content can learn a lot from salespeople, especially when it comes to copywriting. You also need to be like short in your message, so not more than 100 or like between 50 and 100 words. So I try to borrow when I do content promotion. I try to borrow a lot of from sales outreach because, yeah, as I said, that typically I feel ahead, much ahead of yeah content distribution people. And yeah, also when it comes to let's say simple thing like subject lines, don't try to make it too salesy, which a lot of people are doing in the content promotion space. Of course, you need to sort of
See, I would say that's the opposite. Like, I would say that salespeople would tend to make the subject lines more salesly.
yeah, it depends. You probably get a lot of sales outreach emails from not savvy salespeople.
Yeah,
But if you like the top 10% of salespeople don't make the email look like it's a sales email. It's I gonna help you to achieve your goals.
copywriters,
They're good
essentially.
copywriters. Whereas on content promotion, I have sometimes the feeling that this is my piece of content, just publish it. Where's the benefit if I do?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Always thinking about what's in it for them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, you probably see that as well in your emails. The response rates, I would say, are a bit lower than when I do like sales, typically. But yeah, this is to be expected, especially if you do like guest posting. Although it depends the type of emails you're sending. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, so when you're doing content outreach, it's essentially like you're selling the value of your content to the people that you're reaching out to. So you really need to frame it in a way that the content is actually valuable for them, because otherwise yeah, it's just like you promoting yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. And so we talked about ChatGPT a little bit. Is this something that you guys are using already effectively? Is what are the other trends that you see that might impact the content and the digital PR industry moving forward?
Yeah, of course, I think AI is going to play a big part in it, obviously. It's going to be much more, the bar of creating content will be much higher. So that's good. That's a good thing for me. So there's going to be more demand for data content because people know everyone nowadays can create a listicle or infographic or like a simple survey. So the bar of creating content will be much higher. But I think also AI will give people the chance to do also some scripting. Of course, you need to have some basic knowledge of statistical programming language, but it's good. It's going to help people doing data analysis much faster. I think, which is a good thing.
So do you see a new maybe kind of role be like an AI prompter?
Yeah, I think it's even
Be really a thing.
yeah, it's a reality. I think
I'm just wondering whether we're going to see this more in the content space as well. So this is going to be someone that is a content marketer specialized in using artificial intelligence to boost the performance or the quality of their content, or maybe even for the outreach emails that they write.
yeah, yeah, I think for sure. But when it comes, I can just speak for myself and the type of work we do. So for data, someone needs to double check the data. Someone needs to do the analysis. So you can have like data points ready and then just tell ChatGPT, can you create a nice research report out of this? So you could maybe even if you're like thinking of scaling or using data content to promote your brand, you could think of I just need one person maybe that can crunch the data and have AI to complete the survey, complete the content.
So one way that I was thinking about this is you could feed the data to ChatGPT and essentially ask it to come up with a few different angles for a nice story with that data set. So is this something that you guys are thinking of doing or are you already doing?
No, it's not something we have done, but it's an interesting point. I'm sure that some of my people that do data analysis are using AI to create code much faster and maybe also to do some data crunching to speed up the process. But there needs to be like someone to extract the data points and verify everything is correct.
Yeah, to double check because there's a lot of
Double check,
bullshit
yeah,
on
definitely,
ChatGPT as
yeah,
well.
for
Okay.
sure.
All right, Daniel, we got to the end of the show. If you could have any character from an 80s or like 90s, I will allow you the 90s as well, movies to promote your content, who would it be and why would that be?
So I'm a huge fan of action movies in the 80s. Rambo or American Fighter, Chuck Norris, of course.
Oh yeah, Chuck Norris would be
Chuck
great.
Norris is like yeah, it's like the obvious, would be my obvious choice. So yeah, I would go with him.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. So, is there any final thoughts that you would like to leave our listeners with? Any last tips?
Yeah, so I think if you can learn from salespeople, I think you get ahead to, I would say, 90% of the people. If you learn a bit of copywriting, learn a bit of like how to do like sales outreach, it can always help your business in any way. I would say like sales is a universal skill. Everyone does sales like every day. You sell yourself to your partner or try to sell your content. So I would encourage people just to learn a bit more about sales and yeah, just try to maybe incorporate some of their stuff into your work.
Yeah, cool. Definitely agree. And so, where can people find you, Daniel? What's the best place to like maybe get in touch with you as well?
Yeah, so check out my website, frontpagedata.com. Just sign up for the lead magnet we have there, and then just let us know in the message. And then, yeah, happy to reach out and to have a chat. Also, I recently launched a new service called Elite Testimonial. So if you want video testimonials that create more sales, also check out elitetestimonial.com. Yeah,
Awesome. That's really cool. And yeah, it was really great to have you, Daniel. It's been great to reconnect as well after a while.
yeah,
And yeah, thanks a lot.
yeah. Thank you. Have a great day.